This week on the Unabated podcast, our own John Raudebaugh joins the show to talk about his work on the NBA news and projections team, how much ball you really need to know to be betting the association, and more. It's a great show. Let's get to it.
Unabated. That's the new word, unabated.
Hello, everyone, and welcome on into the Unabated podcast. I'm Thomas Viola, and joining me, as always, Mr. Unabated himself, Captain Jack Andrews. Jack, I realize I say as always, but let's face it, we are on a little bit of a rotation now to where that's not the case, but it's just the ship has sailed. That's rote memorization at this point.
Yeah, that's fine. I also like Mr. Unabated, even though I have a captain's title. You could just say Captain Unabated, but no, you call me Mr. Unabated. It's all right.
I don't want to breach into your stolen valor. That's the problem.
Oh man, canceling me. Okay.
Well, Jack, today we have a great show in store. Our own John Raudebaugh is going to be coming on to talk to us about the fantastic work that he and the NBA team do on our NBA projections and news team. And he's going to be giving a little bit of a slice into the process, a little bit of a peek behind the curtain, as well as talking about some of the things that really bettors need to know when they're coming on board and what they should bring to the table as well when it comes to the NBA show. But one thing that we have definitely learned so far this season is it helps to know ball just a little bit. And as a matter of fact, even you have started knowing a little more ball since we've gotten going on the NBA product here. How does that feel actually knowing some NBA players other than Joel Embiid?
I know it's like the education of Captain Jack. I've long since said I don't know who the players are, and now I find myself actually kind of knowing the players just based on hunting them down in our prop screen, following along in the Discord, following along as to when this player is out, this player benefits from it, or this player has less assists. The other day, somebody mentioned Bones. And often players get referred to just by a nickname. And I was like, oh, that's a nickname. And I was like, wait, no. I remember seeing a player named Bones Highland. That was it. I quick searched the prop screen for Bones Highland and lost a prop on him that night because he went off and had a career game. But that's beside the point. The point is, I'm actually starting to learn who these players are on more of a micro level. And I kind of enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it too. I mean, one thing that I know we're going to talk about with John is the way that they are able to provide a lot more context because I'm the same way. I don't know that many NBA players because I don't watch that much NBA. I don't know that much about the sport, and I've still had some pretty good success so far this season. I'm still always learning and retooling everything, but the NBA team has done such a great job of being able to provide that context and to really help you ease into it. And it's kind of exposed you. It's exposed both of us a little bit to more of a, I don't quite want to call it qualitative approach. It's more of a hybrid blend, I would say.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And I always say that is the superpower. If you can combine the quantitative and the qualitative, you become a force in sports betting.
Yeah, and I've personally like applying the same journey to the NFL, a sport that I'm much more familiar with and much more comfortable with. When that season was going on, well, we're still in it, but when the big part of the season was going on, it was really helpful being able to take. I was using Derek Carty's numbers from the Blitz. It's helpful to be able to look at those and spot things and be like, okay, well, I know that I had like the numbers say I have an edge here, but I know just from my own experience with the sport, maybe that one's like missing. It's not quite accounting for the fact that, oh, this guy's not going to be in, or they're changing this thing up. So using stuff like Coach Speak Index, other tools to help you so that you're not just sitting there on the screen blindly betting away at edges. You have more context and you're able to make more of an informed decision based on it. And it's really nice being able to start doing that for the NBA as well. And John is going to talk about how you can get to that level in this podcast. I'm very excited. I think we should bring him on.
Let's do it.
And ladies and gentlemen, welcome on into the show, Unabated's own John Raudebaugh. John, I would say thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day to be here with us, but you are in fact not even on a break here. You are on news desk duty right now, are you not?
Yeah, I'm working right now. I was doing some rates, doing some adjustments to the projections, watching the news feed. If anything comes in, I might have to say, hold on a second, let me fire this news off. But yeah, should be okay.
Well,
Love
we
it.
are very excited to talk with you exactly about all of that, what goes into the projections, what goes into the news, and really everything that makes the entire NBA process here at Unabated run. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit about you, John, because what is it that came first for you? Was it your interest in the NBA or was it your interest in sports betting?
Oh, I mean, definitely sports. I mean, I grew up big sports fan, sports nerd. I grew up in South Florida, so going to Dolphins games, Heat, Marlins games. Um, I think I've always been a fan of the NBA in the sense that I think it's different that you can root for. It's fun to root for, individual players. So while I am, a big fan of the South Florida teams, big hater of the Northeastern teams. I think the NBA has always been a little different for me in that it's fun to root for the characters. The John Morant's, just everyone has a different story and different style, very unique, their own game, all the stars. So I think that's kind of been the difference. So yeah, big sports fan first and foremost. Before I ever thought about betting, placing a bet, or getting into fantasy sports or anything like that.
I love that because as someone who comes from the same exact background there, I mean, Jack, you and I talk on the show all the time. When we were writing, one of our questions for you, John, is how much NBA do you watch? And when we were writing that question out, Jack goes, "Oh, I watch no NBA," and I'm like, "Yeah, I know this one was for John, but it's nice being able to still be a sports fan because we see it all the time. And I'm not trying to throw any shade at Adam Levitan, but coining the term laundry bros, like for the people who still enjoy watching the games, there's something to be said for that. It's okay to still be a fan while you're doing the betting thing.
I mean, I'm certainly less of a laundry bro than I was in the past. Growing up. I mean, maybe that has something to do with being a jaded Dolphins fan. For so many years, and but yeah, less so. But like I said, that's what makes the NBA fun to watch. You can root for your team, but I enjoy just the individual performances and just some good games. As far as
So
watching though, like I mean, I'm usually working, when the games are on. So, but I'll have a Heat game, or I'll bounce around League Pass during the slate. A lot of my, you know, a lot of following along on the games comes on my Twitter feed. I'm staring at that the whole time, waiting for news to come in. So you can keep up with the games just by watching the Twitter feed. The beat reporters kind of giving play by play. That's mostly how I digest, or ingest rather, the slate each night.
so where did the betting come along? Where did you get introduced to betting and why? And how did that all evolve?
I've actually, before betting, was playing DFS. I've played DFS for a very long time now. NBA DFS more seriously. Last several years, 5, 6 years, whatever. Um, so yeah, that's like, of course, started playing fantasy football, when you're younger, your home leagues. But yeah, DFS really got me interested, and really captured me as far as like, a new way to think about, sports, and get action, on it, and getting a sweat. I've been very much into it for a very long time now. Yeah, like I said, the last couple years, played very seriously. I guess you could say semi-professional level when started actually making money at it. And but yeah, that's like that was my introduction for sure. The betting stuff has come relatively recently, and even like right now, since I've been on the unabated team, I'm learning as much as I am giving out advice or whatever, or insight on NBA. Learning from you guys, from the Discord, and then working with SBK is kind of a cheat code, crash course in betting.
So that's interesting because we see so many people come across this land bridge of DFS from the distant lands to the sports betting land, and it's incredible. And I think it's changed the face of how sports betting is done in the US. It's very more prop centric now than really we anticipated it being 6 years ago when we got legalization. So at what point when in your DFS process did you start to say, I need to create better projections than are out there? Because I know in the DFS world, you can rely on some other people's projections, or you can rely on making your own. And really, that making your own is that evolutionary step forward. When did you decide that you needed to take that step for yourself?
Kind of figured it out on my own, like knew you had to differentiate yourself against the field. And this isn't a new concept. You know what I mean? A lot of the sharp DFS pro DFS players, petty theft, like he's talked about this a bunch of times. Doing your own projections is the best way to do that. I started out just like, and this is what kind of got me into doing projections work was, taking a, subscribe to set of, median projections on my own. And, you start with just minutes, right? You start just like, I think he can play more minutes than this guy, there used to be a site called Daily Roto, and they had a tool in there that you could, get a quick glance at a player's range of outcomes, so it was instead of like a crude kind of, adjustment that like at least gave you like a real number to use, if you thought this player, projection should be, higher or lower, that was a fun tool at the time. It kind of got the wheels spinning and kind of changed the way I thought about doing projections work, and kind of got me into it. Yeah.
Now, when it comes to bridging the gap into betting, and really, let's face it, with DFS too, how important is it to truly know ball, as they like to say? Because I know that here at Unabated, we are very big on you don't actually have to know that much ball and watch that many sports. It's more about the numbers. When it comes to basketball, it's a lot of a different beast.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can get away with knowing just enough ball, that at least like for our subscribers, you can at least know or expect to follow along what's happening ahead of a slate, or at least like knowing what's actionable, what news is actionable,
Mhm.
what to look out for, what are we talking about, when we do the write ups or when we're on the show. I mean, it's helpful to know at least like, all right, if player X is out, player Y benefits in minutes and usage, whatever. But I mean, that's also stuff like, we're going to cover, in the write ups and on the show on Set the Screen, each slate.
Yeah, and that I think skipping ahead a little bit in the questions, but I think that that is one of the things that I definitely noticed from this year of really taking basketball betting seriously, of saying, okay, we have our projections, we have our news notes here. This guy is questionable. What does that mean for that guy? What does that mean for the projections here? How is it that you determine how projections adjust to the news in the market when it comes to guys being in, out of the lineup, things like that?
Well, first of all, we try to be prepared as much as possible with the stuff we can prepare for. That's why we have the conditional projections. We have an idea. We're going to look for, sample size, which some situations there's more, some situations there's less. A decent sample size. Last season of the Bucks, with Giannis, without Dame, with Dame, without Giannis, those kind of things. That's the kind of stuff, you're looking at first, some kind of reference point on, who's going to play what minutes, how much, of a usage rate bump one of those guys gets. Also, news comes in, some of the variables might be like, how many players are available, how many minutes can this guy even play? So there again, it goes back to, how big of a sample size do we have? What's the most this guy's even played this season? What's the range there? So you start to narrow down like what is a range? What's an appropriate range of outcomes for these, other players that are stepping into maybe a new role or a role they've played before when X player is out. What's the coach's tendencies, as far as rotations go? Tom Thibodeau, he'll play typically, 7, maybe 8 guys max. Steve Kerr, Taylor Jenkins, they're likely to go as deep as 11 and 12, maybe more. So all those things, we've considered, for the guys that maybe have outstanding injury tags coming into the slate. And then, when the bullets are flying, news is coming in, leading up to a tip off, you know, that's when it helps to, like I said, maybe no ball and, think on your feet and try to make the best projection you can on each player, at least for minutes and rates.
Now,
Oh, sorry, Tom. I just wanted to kind of throw in there. We started talking about the process here, and I think this is one thing that I underestimated when we started the NBA product at Unabated. John, when does the process begin for a slate of games?
Well, for me, I mean, I'm starting depending on the size of the slate. I'm sitting down about 9:30 each morning, and I'm going through rates for each team, usage
And
rate, rebound rate,
you're East
assist
Coast,
rate.
right?
I'm in Texas right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been here for about a year and a half, and so yeah, so I get a little bit like 1 hour, is better than the East Coast time. But
Okay.
yeah, I've thought about, I've considered the Pacific time plenty these last few years, working NBA and how nice that must be. But yeah, no, my day starts pretty early working on that. It's very tedious, very granular, very boring. You're going player by player, stat by stat, for a few hours, and then Justin, SBK, and I will talk through a slate and projections for a couple hours at least, leading up to the show. And then once the show's over, then it's game time. Then it's we're leading up to injury resolutions, news, starting lineups to tip off.
Yeah, I mean it's your game time because it's when the markets are
Yeah,
really moving a lot. So when you say game time, it's not the start of the actual game. It's the start of when the market really becomes volatile.
right.
And so when you get that news and information in there, I notice a lot of times there will be a new projection put out, and then a little bit later they'll say, "Well, we're going to come up a few minutes on this. Well, maybe not even a few minutes, maybe a minute on this person." Uh, Explain to me how that sort of thing happens over the course of the process.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of moving parts, right? And the more, we give the market a lot of credit. I think you should. I think that's the best practice. You know, kind of look at what the market has for you and assume you're wrong. Assume our projection. Where could it be wrong? What's the what's the leak here? What's the where are they getting this from? Why is ours different? A lot of times it's not. A lot of times most of the time, all right, we're right on line with market here. And that might maybe, make us feel better or worse about another player's projection. But as the slate goes on, then the market might release more markets, more lines for players. And that kind of reveals, maybe more pieces to the puzzle, of a team's projection, for this game. And it's very fluid, news, lineup changes, all that stuff makes it all very fluid. Market movement, so yeah, there's going to be changes every time, for the most part, every team, every slate. It's very rare. There's only a handful of teams in the league that you can like rely on to roll out the same starting five every night, around the same minutes every night. The Wolves, for example, they've been pretty consistent this year, stuff like that. But a lot of times, thanks to injuries, things are going to vary night to night, depending on, the team's success, what a coach, wants to do. So very, very fluid. And so, yeah, we have to, like I said, we're going to, maybe give the market some credit, and make adjustments based on it to make our projections as accurate as possible.
And you talked about, game time. Obviously not actual tip off, but game time for you. What are the key times of day when it comes to betting NBA props? Because that's one of the biggest questions everybody always asks.
For me, like, I might fire some stuff at release. I think, that's when the market starts moving. Probably if there's no news,
Hmm.
is when a site like ours, a service like ours, releases projections. You're going to get some movement off that. It's kind of like a big reveal, when we do. It's like, all right, what's going to happen now with the market? How's it going to react? And then from there, I probably won't you know get any action down until injuries are start to be resolved. Injury statuses. That's when things really start shaking up, and we see some movement in the markets. Like I said, uh, more markets become available. Most books aren't going to release new markets until some of that news is cleared up. And then, once lineups are released, then sometimes, depending on the slate size, they're going to throw the kitchen sink at you every like sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth player in the rotation. And that's when I think like there's the most edge. We've talked about it a lot, on our shows, in the Discord, with you guys. Like, that's good stuff right there. That's I don't know what you call it, the witching hour, or the that's the time to get in there and you know find the inefficiencies that might be opportunities for you.
So, a quick question. I know you worked with us with our WNBA projections, and just curious, how different is projecting WNBA versus NBA?
Yeah, very different, right? So, same concepts and rules for projecting minutes and rates, but, fewer minutes to project, smaller rosters, fewer games means smaller sample sizes to go off of. I think, like, especially this next upcoming season and the season after that, there is going to be a lot of roster shakeup, a lot of turnover. There's a new franchise, uh, that will make their inaugural season next year, and then another one coming after that. A new CBA is on the horizon after this season. Players aren't signing big, long term contracts at all. So all that, like I said earlier, it's easier to do projections using a big sample size um, of data, and you don't get that in the WNBA very much. So, also there's not, they don't have the same, data. Like there's no tracking data. You can't like, if you want to figure out potential assists, you gotta watch the game yourself and track that. Um, so yeah, big difference. And obviously the NBA, a lot more work, a lot more teams, bigger slates. Yeah, a lot more man hours there.
Does it also have anything to do with like the difference in style of play? Like I know people say that the NBA is an above the rim game and the WNBA is a below the rim game. Like obviously, you know,
I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, all that's kind of baked in there. It's all relative. I think like, you know, projecting WNBA. We've talked about it. We talked about it during the season, before the season. Um, you know, Markets are a little less efficient. I don't think like style of play has much to do with anything. Like I said, it's all relative. It's the same kind of puzzle you're putting together, doing projections. You know how many minutes they're going to play. How many players are on the team. Only so many rebounds you can grab and points to score. So it's just about distribution.
now
Go ahead,
go ahead,
Tom.
Jack.
Oh, okay. I wanted to kind of focus on what the unabated better brings to the table, because one of the things we do here at Unabated is we somewhat require people to at least have their own thought process, their own plan of attack. Uh, they're bringing an ingredient to the table, and then we're using our tools and our resources to kind of leverage that up higher. So for the NBA props, what should the unabated user bring to the table?
I mean, I think like the least you can do for yourself, is, turn the news alerts on, read the write-ups, watch the show if you can, get as much context as you can, have the Discord open during the rush, once the bullets are flying. Bonus points for, asking questions, or contributing to discussions. There's betters of all levels, in the Discord, beginners, pros, pro DFS players, there's all types in there. I think the people that get the most out of it are the ones in there asking questions, is this edge okay? Does this look right? What do you think about, this play here, stuff like that. And, we're happy to engage, and we try to as much as possible, to, you don't want to hold your hands. We want this product is like, it can be different for everybody, depending on the type of better you are. And I don't think like most people want their handheld. I don't think people want us to say, green light, don't bet this game, or, this part, I don't know about this spot here. I think they just want some context, and, some insight, and some, maybe talking through the slate. Like I said, there's a lot going on, and it's tough to, unless you're like plugged into the matrix, like we are every single day. It's easy to miss stuff. And so just being in the Discord, reading the write-ups, watching the show, that'll go a long way.
I will say, as someone who is not a huge NBA guy, I don't watch that much of it, but it has been really helpful. And I feel like I'm so much more knowledgeable about the league just from watching Set the Screen with you, SBK, and Justin. And of course, all the Discord write-ups, all the Discord news and stuff. You guys do a great job of contextualizing everything and making it easy for someone, even if you are not a huge basketball fan, you can absolutely bet on this and be profitable with the help of these guys here. But of course, the other thing that a lot of people would want to know, you're plugged into the matrix. If you're someone who is not, and is someone who is coming in and saying, okay, cool, I want to know how to bet all this stuff. I, we know how much time you guys put into the product. How much time does a bettor really need to be devoting daily to the NBA, to betting on the NBA? I mean, I know we joke about having your piss jugs ready on the shows every day.
Yeah, I mean, it depends what you want to get out of it. I don't, and what kind of better you are. I don't think, if you want to be selective, and, really try to get the most, at EV out of every single bet, maybe you need to be plugged in, a little bit more. I don't think you need to wake up and consume content all day long until the game tips off to be successful at all. I don't think that's the case. I think the tools we have are pretty incredible. It's, a very unique product in the sense that, the amount of transparency, and, context we try to provide, we're on there every day, all day, every day, so that, you don't have to. I think like depends on, your schedule, how much, you want to, be involved here. It is tough though. It is tough if you don't watch the show, or if you pop in, when the West Coast games are about to tip, you're like, all right, what looks good here? Like, I don't know. Like at that point, it's like,
You missed the boat.
maybe sometimes. But I don't think you need to be grinding, at the level we are to be successful, using our tools.
And it helps you guys are grinding so that they don't have to.
Yep. Yeah. 100%.
Well, John, we appreciate that grind so much, and I'm sure that everybody who has been making money off the NBA with us this year is equally, if not more so, appreciative of it. Thank you so much for taking the time with us today. And thank you so much for all of the awesome work you're doing on the NBA product. Of course, if people want to check out all that Unabated has to offer when it comes to the association, they can head to unabated.com/NBA. And if you want to catch John on the social media platforms, it is super easy at John Raudebaugh. All right, I'll spell it out for you. Raudebaugh. You can listen to that back. I'm not going to say it again. But for now, thank you so much, John, and thank you so much to everybody for listening. We hope that you are still having a great season in the NBA and beyond. And of course, we appreciate you being here. And let's cash some tickets. We'll see you next episode, everybody.